Welcome back to episode 41 of How to Do Stuff with Mr. Stevenson. In episode 41, we're going to be covering, as you can see right here on the screen, dividing fractions. Kind of piggybacks off of what we did in episode 40 on multiplying fractions. The reason why I say that is because, and I tell all my students this, when it comes to dividing fractions, you don't actually divide fractions. No. When someone asks you how you divide a fraction, you say, you don't. You don't divide fractions, okay? I know that sounds weird, but bear with me for the moment. You don't actually divide the fractions out. You're actually going to multiply them. That doesn't seems goofy, but I'll show you what I mean. So in this first problem over here on the left, I have 7/9 divided by 2/3. What we're going to do is we have to convert every fraction that we do into a multiplication, or every problem we do into a multiplication problem. So what we're going to do is we're going to take 7/9. We're going to change this to set. We're going to change that, and actually we're going to change this to, we're going to do a little switcheroo here. We're going to turn this into a multiplication problem. Let's go times. We actually changed the division sign into a multiplication problem also. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually change the division sign into a multiplication sign. And then we leave 7/9 the way it is. The fraction on the left stays the same. Fraction on the right, however, what we do with this fraction right here is we do what we call taking the reciprocal. The reciprocal basically means we take it and we flip it 3/2. There's an entire process that you take that'll show you how this is done. We're not going to do that in this video. Instead, I'm just going to say take the reciprocal, the fraction on the right. There's a reason why it's done, but we're not going to get into that. You get into that some other day. And what we have now is 7/9 times 3/2. This is what we want. We want to make it into a multiplication problem. We did that. And the only way to do that is to take the 2/3 and flip it to 3/2. Now, if you watched the last video, you know that we can cross cancel. Cross canceling is where we divide the numbers that are opposite of one another. So the opposite of the top right here is the bottom left, and we're going to divide the 3 and the 9. I can divide those each by 3. That gets me a 1 and a 3. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the 7 and the 2 if I can, but I can't because the only thing I can divide them by is 1, and I don't want to divide by 1s because I end up with the same thing. Then we multiply across, that times that, and that times that, and we get 7 times 1. We switch colors back, get 7 times 1 is 7, and 3 times 2 is 6, and that's an improper fraction, so we're going to rewrite that as 1 and 1/6, right? So there's your answer for that one. Okay, next one I have is 15/16 divided by 5/8. Now we do the same exact thing. This is just a second problem, just kind of reinforcing the skill. Is we're going to rewrite this problem out. Okay, so we want to rewrite everything that we rewrite every so we're going to rewrite this number, and that's going to stay the same. We're just rewriting it again. We're going to rewrite this into a multiplication problem because remember what I said? We don't divide actually. Okay, so and we're going to rewrite this. So that's how we do that. I'm going to switch colors. So we're going to change the 15/16. We're not going to change 15/16. So we're going to leave that as it is. We're going to change the division into a multiplication problem. And then we do what again? We take the reciprocal of the fraction on the right. So that becomes 8/5. Now the good news is this is really easy. We can cross cancel here a lot. Okay? We're going to cross cancel the 8 and the 16. They both divide by 8. That makes a 1 here and a 2 here. And I can divide the 5 and the 15 by 5, and that makes a 1 here and a 3 here. And then I have and I multiply across, and I get 3 times 1 and 2 times 1, and that's 3 over 2, which equals 1 and 1/2. So that's how you do that problem. I threw another one in here. This one's a little goofier because I threw a whole number in. Whole numbers are really easy to deal with. Basically, we're going to do the same thing we just did with the last problem. We're going to turn this into multiply, because remember, how do you divide fractions? You don't. Okay, so we're going to leave 18/25 alone. We're going to let's write it down here. Let's go 18/25 times, we switch to times. And then we're just going to do this. We're just going to put, over here, we're going to put 30. I'm going to put that up here. You're going to turn 30 into fraction by going 30 over 1. But then what do you have to do? You have to take the reciprocal of that number, right? So the reciprocal means we flip it, so it becomes 1/30th, okay? And then we divide. All right, then we cross cancel, and cross canceling means we're going to look at the numbers opposite one another and find if we can divide those both by something. And it looks right here that I can divide 18 and 30 both by the same thing. You might be saying 2 because they're even, but there's a bigger number. It's not 3 either. There's a bigger one than that. You see it? It is 6. If you said 6, divide them both by 6. This becomes a 3, and this becomes a 5, and then that equals. We just multiply across, like so, and we get 3 times 1. I'm going to write them below, equals 3 over 125. And that is the simplified number. You can't divide 3 by anything but 1 and 3, and 125 does not divide by 3. Okay, same thing. Okay, so we got one more, and this one is where you have mixed numbers. And I did cover this a little bit in the multiplication video in episode 40. And it's not that hard either. It's really quite basic, and I'll kind of take you through it here. First things first, we're going to rewrite everything. I just draw these little arrows, meaning everything's going to get rewritten. Okay, and we can't multiply with mixed numbers, so what we're going to do is we're going to change them all into improper fractions. So if I do that, I get 6 times 4 is 24 plus 1 is 25, and that's over 6 because the denominators are the same. Change this to multiply, and then over here I'm going to get 5 times 2 is 10 plus 2 is 12. So I'm going to get 12. I'm going to write it right here for a second. I'm going to get 12/5. But if you remember correctly, that number on the right, you have to take the reciprocal of that. So that's going to become 5/12. Okay. Now, this one's really weird because if you look, there's nothing that can be cross-canceled. So we just have to multiply it all out. And we're going to multiply straight across. And 25 times 5 is 125, over 6 times 12 is 72. And then this one's really funky, but if you multiply it out, 72 goes into 125 only once, and then we'll take 125 minus 72, end up with 53 over 72. This one's kind of an uglier problem, but I mean doable, I would say. So that's dividing fractions. Of course, if you have questions, comments, or criticisms,